Well, in the narrowly concluded 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court did the right thing with respect to preserving each state's ability, consistent with the United States Constitution, to manage the electoral process relative to voting by mail. Voting by mail has never been a partisan issue until Donald Trump decided to peddle conspiracy theories related to his own failures to win back in 2020.
You know, just to the minority leader's point there, when he's talking about Donald Trump's inability to address his own failures, do you remember when Hillary Clinton lost in 2016 and wrote a book called What Happened and explained all of the reasons why she didn't really lose? I remember that. Hakeem, go back a few years and play fair and balanced. Would you? Probably not. Deroy Murdock joins us right now, nationally syndicated columnist, Project 21 ambassador, and Fox News contributor. Deroy, welcome back. Happy 4th of July. It's exciting to have you back here with us.
Annie, happy 7-4-250 as I've been calling it to you and yours and all of our listeners as well.
Absolutely. Well, you've got a piece right now in the Daily Signal, and you're talking about the Save America Act, and you're working to get to the point where the mail-in ballots, maybe not so much as how Hakeem Jeffries ends up seeing it. Talk to me about your reaction to the Supreme Court's ruling that mail-in ballots, as long as they're postmarked by Election Day, they can keep counting them.
Yeah, I was very surprised and very disappointed and frankly shocked by this decision, and to have it written by the member of the conservative majority and not by John Roberts but by Amy Coney Barrett was really quite astonishing to me. And I don't know where she gets off on saying, well, you know, these states, there's no law that says they can't do this, so they can go ahead and do it. Very clearly, the federal I think it's called the Federal Election Act, if I'm not mistaken, says that the federal elections will be, quote, the Tuesday next after the first Monday in October. That's very clear. So I don't know why that's a mystery. That's when Election Day is supposed to happen and conclude, not 5 days later or 10 days later or, you know, the day before the new House members are sworn in or whatever it might be. And the way that this decision is written, unless I'm mistaken, other states could get in and say, look, you know, you can send ballots in for another month. We'll just count, you know, all the way into Thanksgiving or maybe Black Friday or perhaps Christmas Eve or something like this. As it is now, there are 14 states that allow ballots to come in after Election Day, as long as they're postmarked by Election Day. The state of Washington, you can hand them in 21 days after election. That's 3 full days after Election Day. Ballots can drift in. And then in New Jersey, you've got a situation here. This is according to the American Council on State Legislatures. They have an excellent document that lays out these deadlines for very state-by-state basis. According to New Jersey, I'm quoting from that organization, mail-delivered ballots without postmarks that arrive within 40 hours of the close of the polls will be considered valid. So it doesn't even have to have a postmark on it. So if you can figure out some way to get it delivered without a postmark, for the first 2 days after the election, they'll be considered valid. And the state of Nevada says, I'm quoting here, ballots with unclear postmarks received by the third day following the election are deemed to have been postmarked on or before Election Day. So you could, take your thumb, dip it in some purple ink, smudge an envelope, and I guess that looks like somebody tried to do a postmark, and that'll be counted as having been postmarked. There's another argument related to this that Paul Clement, one of the attorneys who was on the losing side of this case, made before the Supreme Court, which is that as long as everything's postmarked by midnight, it'll be counted. Now you have elections where, let's say, the polls close at 7 o'clock, 8:30, somebody is projected to have won, and people could say, all right, well, we've got between now and midnight to go to the main post office downtown, get it postmarked on that day, even though it's well after the polls closed. And, our favorite candidate's only behind by, 2,000 votes. Let's see if we can get 2,200 ballots, fill them out, and drop them off at 11:45. They'll have that day's postmark, and they'll be counted as legitimate, even though they were filled out after the polls closed. So this is a recipe for disaster. I'm shocked and very disappointed that Amy Coney Barrett and the rest approve this nonsense. And this is all the more reason for the Save America Act to get passed and signed into law. If we're going to have an open-ended receipt of ballots and counting ballots for days and days after, we need to stop or reduce the supply at the other end of the equation and limit mail-in ballots to people who are absentee because they're out of town, they're in the military, they're off to college, they're on business, or they're on vacation or something like that, or they're sick or disabled and unable to get to the polls. In that case, fine. Those people should cast mail-in ballots. It's not like you see in other states where they just mail ballots to everybody on the voter rolls, whether they're dead or alive, living in state or out of state or who knows what. And then we have the magic ballots being collected by ballot harvesters and falling into drop boxes and popping up out of nowhere. And we've seen it over and over again. We saw it most recently with Spencer Pratt. We've seen it with others. The Republican or conservative is ahead on election night, and then over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 days, that margin of victory gets smaller and smaller and disappears, and eventually, boom, magically, the Democrat wins, and that's declared as the official vote. So this needs to be fixed, and John Thune needs to snap out of it, wake up, get out of his tanning salon, and come back and lead the Senate to pass the Save America Act, or the Republican Party will be very, very, very desperately disadvantaged come this November and later.
Yeah, Deroy Murdock, before we let you go, do you think it's likely that the president has the ability to make that kind of an influence in a Senate where several of the Republicans are very upset about the primaries that the president supported?
They may be upset about this, but look, he and others need to make it clear that it's not about Trump's personality. It's not about whether you like him or not. It's about whether Republicans and conservatives will be able to get elected to these positions. And if we're going to have the magic ballot situation with all these ballots just drifting in after election day for days and days and days, we're going to see Spencer Pratt types of situations over and over and over again. So I know that Mitch McConnell doesn't like Trump. I know that Lisa Murkowski doesn't like the man. They need to see beyond themselves. This is not a high school popularity contest. This is about how this country is going to be governed or not governed over for decades to come, and they need to get beyond their little petty personality problems and do the right thing and make it possible for us to have free, honest, and fair elections. If that happens, then Republicans and conservatives will have some chance of actually winning. If not, it's going to be a free-for-all and chaos, and this place is going to go down and will not be pretty.
Well, Deroy Murdock, we're grateful for your time today. We hope you have a wonderful 250th celebration of the best country on the face of the planet. Thank you for being a part of our show each week. We're grateful for it.
I second that emotion. Thanks very much. Happy 7-4-250.
7-4-250. You got it. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.